Hello there, good morning and welcome to the WP Builds newsletter once again. This is newsletter number 30 and it was released on Monday the 17th of September, and this week it covers the news commencing, well, for the week commencing the 10th of September, all in the year of 2018. A couple of things just before we begin. Please go over to the wpbuilds.com website. If you use the menu items at the top, you can subscribe to our newsletter and all the channels that we're on, Slack group and Facebook group and so on. Also, we've got another menu item called webinars, and we've got a few coming up. One is with James Rose, all about getting content. One is with the developer of Beaver Team Pro, Tom Carlos, explaining how that works with Beaver Builder. This week, coming up, we've got one with Arindo Duque from WP Ultimo, which is a multi-site plugin enabling you to really easily create multi-site networks, which you can sell to your clients. And we've also got one with Adam Hempenstall coming up this week as well. He's the guy behind Better Proposals, and he was on the podcast last week. And he is going to explain how you should formulate your proposals. At the moment, if you go to wpbuilds.com/giveaways, you'll find it right in the menu item at the top. You will discover that we've got one at the moment for WP Compress. If you enter that competition and win, 5 people are going to get 10,000 image compression credits, which is rather nice. Thanks for donating this prize. This is a really generous prize, I think. Just something about this, they don't actually include the thumbnails. So the thumbnails are given to you for free, if you know what I mean by that. The next page to go to is wpbuilds.com/deals, where we've got a whole bunch of deals on 20% off this, 30% off that, and so on. Things like Toolset, Malcare, BlogVault, Main WP, Beaver Team Pro, and Erin Flynn courses, and so on. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. Thanks for joining us this week. And I'll get stuck straight into the news. There's an awful lot of stuff this week come off the WP Tavern, absolutely fabulous website. If you don't follow it, I suggest strongly that you do. The first item is all about the fact that WordPress 4.9.9 is around the corner, and the roadmap has been released about this, and the main focus areas are accessibility, internationalization, the Site Health Project, which is, well, it was something that was formerly known as Serve Happy, and obviously Gutenberg support as well. If you click on the link beneath this, you'll find out about all of the things that are being shipped in 4.9.9. It's obviously a big preparation to 5, and according to the WP Tavern website, it does kind of indicate that potentially WordPress version 5 might come around as soon as November, mid-November it says. So there we go, that's quite interesting. But yeah, if you're slightly nervous about 5, possibly a good time to be investigating what's coming up, so that might be a good article. This is another WordPress Coding Standards article. We did one a few weeks ago. Coding Standards had reached version 1.0 at that point. Now we're up to version 1.1.0. And it's been released. It's on GitHub. It includes more stringent function call formatting checks, which are all explained, and there's also stricter check overrides for WordPress global variables. If you are a hardcore developer, then this is the sort of thing that you need to be looking into, just so that you are obeying all of the standards which you are expected to be obeying. The next one, this is just such a lovely thing. There's a man called Marcel Bootsman. I think Bootsman is just the most perfect surname for him. He's decided that he's going to raise money. Now, he's going to be raising money in a really interesting way. He's going to be walking 700 kilometers to WordCamp Europe in, I think it's May next year. I think, if I'm right, I think the WordCamp is going to be held in Rotterdam. No, he's starting in Rotterdam. My apologies, I misremembered. And I think it's in Berlin. So he's going to be walking all the way from Rotterdam all the way to Berlin. And he's hoping to raise money for a charity called Donate WC. And that's an initiative which assists people who can't generate the revenue to get themselves to one of the big WordCamps. So basically, this charity will enable somebody who it is deemed is worthy to get transportation from door to door. It gives them food and drink, internet access, all of that kind of stuff. And when I looked he'd raised about $500, and there's still quite a long time for this to go on. So I'm really, really hoping that people like me mentioning this is going to give him a bit of a leg up, as it were, and he'll get some more money raised. But I just think that's such a lovely little story, and it sort of indicates how nice people are. It's going to take months, so he's basically going to take a load of time off work to do it as well, which is quite interesting. This next one is on the Search Engine Journal, and it's called Wix versus WordPress, The Data Doesn't Lie. And it's kind of a really interesting story. Well, not story, it's kind of an interesting article. It's about something which I didn't really realise had a technical name. It's called First Contentful Paint, and it's that moment on a site where things are sort of first arriving. And it compares a whole bunch of CMSs, for example, Drupal and Joomla and WordPress, but in this case, Wix. And it's got some really interesting data. So, for example, the Wix does not so well on mobile. Drupal does really well on desktop and mobile, getting that first bite back, if you like. But it's not always, WordPress is kind of lurking somewhere in the middle in terms of fastness, averageness, and slowness. But it's quite an interesting article because although Wix doesn't do well in some areas, it really does do well in other areas. Anyway, the point of this article, I suppose, is if you've got a client who is trying to move over to Wix or is trying to persuade you that Wix is a good option, this might be the kind of thing that you can throw at them and say, aha, but Wix doesn't do so well in this area, even though it doesn't do terribly in all areas. It doesn't do as well as WordPress in some very key areas, so it's possibly worth looking at. The next one is if you are a WooCommerce user and you are an owner of an Android phone, you can now get a beta version of the WooCommerce store in your pocket. That's the title of the WooCommerce article. It allows you to track your store, manage your orders, you can look at real-time alerts and so on, and it's in beta at the moment, but it looks pretty good. I'm not a heavy user, but obviously if that's the way you're making your living from WooCommerce or you're selling WooCommerce products, it might be quite handy to indicate that this is now something which is available that your clients can use. Very nice indeed. I love having apps on my phone. I think it's just so convenient. I'm a bit addicted. This next article, I kind of feel like I've mentioned this before. This comes from the WPMU dev guys. They've got, I'm going to say a new plugin, but it kind of feels to me like I've mentioned this before, so perhaps I'm misremembering. But they've got a plugin called Forminator, which is a bit like, it's akin to Gravity Forms or Ninja Forms or something like that. And they have got a really, really strong offering in the wp.org repo, a free one. And what they're claiming is that this free version that they've got hands down beats all the other free versions. I don't think they're claiming it's yet as good as some of the other more popular ones, for example, Gravity Forms, but they're saying the free version is considerably better. It does all sorts of things. It does the usual forms, it does polls and surveys and all sorts of stuff. So maybe if your client has a very, very tight budget and they need a decent forms plugin, perhaps this is something to look at. Forminator by WPMU Dev. A few weeks ago, we mentioned that Drupal had ported Gutenberg and that they'd made this one of the modules that was being developed. Well, apparently it's gone down really well. They have things called Drupal. What are they called? Drupal camps. I want to say Drupal camp. I'm going to say Drupal camp. I think that's what it is. And recently they had one of these, and the developers who have taken on Gutenberg have been really, really blessed. It sounds like the Drupal guys are really getting into it and very much embracing it. And the article that I'm posting here is, again, a WP Tavern one, and it kind of ends in a really nice way. The idea being, what if this editor became like the CMS standard, and it was something which wasn't just in WordPress but was contributed to by, for example, Joomla or Drupal, and everybody was getting something out of it. And so we had this one way of doing content. Now that may fit with what you think is a good idea or not, but it's certainly a very interesting slant on it. Okay, the next one is more about Gutenberg. Sorry, Gutenberg just seems to dominate everything. It's coming, it's coming, and according to the WP Tavern again, it is now slowly but surely rolling out to people on WordPress.com as an option. At the moment, it's an opt-in, but at some point in the I say near future, I don't really know. It's going to be opt-out only. Obviously, if the theme isn't compatible and you're on WordPress.com, it won't be available as an option to you. But if it is, it's now happening on WordPress.com. So, it is happening. You can't really avoid it. It's what's going on. Okay, the next one. Speaking of Gutenberg, we're on to Gutenberg release cycle 3.8. It's available for download, and the features include a full screen mode. This is quite interesting because at the moment you've got the WordPress admin bar at the top and the menu down the side, and apparently the full screen mode now gets rid of those entirely. And there's a few little other changes, various options and menu items have been moved to various different places. Not a lot, in all honesty, but the most notable one is that this full screen mode now really does appear to be full screen, so that's quite nice. Here's two things for you, kind of rolled up as one from the Breezy page builder. Breezy Pro have released two things in the last week. They've released version or build 0.0.4 and 0.0.5. 0.0.4 enables ACF fields to be used as part of your content templates. So that's quite nice. If you've ever used Beaver Builder or you've used Elementor, you'll know how you can add dynamic content into your templates. Well, it's now available in Breezy, but also this week they've released the pop-up builder, so you can actually create really quite attractive looking pop-ups and do it all in the Breezy page builder UI. So very nice updates this week, and presumably there'll be more in the weeks to come because they're iterating very, very, very fast on that product and making sure that it's being updated all the time. Okay. For the security conscious amongst you, Symantec, a company shrouded in sort of all sorts of dark things over the last couple of years. Symantec were a certificate issuing authority, but they were up to no good. They sometimes issued certificates that really shouldn't have been issued, and they were caught doing it by the likes of Google. And Chrome and Firefox and Safari, all the plugins, are going to absolutely pull support for their certificates. Now, they were bought by a company called DigiCert, who strike me as exactly the opposite of shady, very, very honourable, and really seem to know exactly what they're doing. They bought them, and they have automatically reissued the certificates correctly, but it may be that if you had a Symantec certificate and you didn't know all of this was going on, you weren't keeping up to date, or if it was a very, very long certificate that you purchased, perhaps this wouldn't be something that you knew about. So just be very, very careful and go and check them. They also cover certificates like Thought, GeoTrust, and Rapid SSL. They were all under this Symantec umbrella, so it might be something that you want to warn your clients about. Okay. We had a few weeks ago some of the guys from WP Shout on the podcast, and this is a very quick news item. They've got a pro community coming out, and I'm linking to the article. This is written by Alex Denning, who's somebody I've met at WordCamp in London a couple of times, and they're trying to assemble a community, essentially a community where you can receive answers to any of your WordPress questions and leave you feeling nurtured and that you've got somebody to cover your back. It's not yet out. This is a pre-sale thing, but if you click on the article, you can find out if WordPress is potentially new to you and you're finding that there's struggles, this might be a community to get into early, so that you can have it as your own. The next one is a little bit of a new thing on me. This is a new plugin. I've not tried it. I've not really experienced it, but it's where it's going. It's more blocks for Gutenberg. This one's called Block Kit for Gutenberg Editor. It's in version 0.4. It's very new. I don't think it's hardly got any installs, but if you are turning over to Gutenberg and you want a whole bunch of pre-built blocks, this one's got a pricing table, info box, button, call to action, testimonial, and author box. And obviously, because it's on the repo, it's completely free. I don't know if there's a paid upgrade in there, but that's what there is at the moment. And just to carry on talking about Gutenberg, this one is to say that Smart Slider 3, again, we had the guys from Smart Slider 3 on the podcast a little while ago. Brilliant slider plugin, enabling you to do all sorts of amazingly complicated things. They have added Gutenberg support. I won't go into the details of it because it's very much you need to look at this article and look at the pictures and read the text. But it's an article explaining how, if you've got Smart Slider 3, how you would go about using it with Gutenberg. Okay, that's the WordPress stuff done. 2 things this week. This first one is just absolutely brilliant. It's TechCrunch who point to an article. Well, sorry, this is an iPhone researcher, and the person is called Sabri Hadouch, and he has written 15 lines of code. It's basically a bunch of divs and a tiny bit of CSS. And if you try to load this up on an iPhone, apparently it utterly crashes your iPhone. It's divs within divs within divs. I mean, hundreds of nested divs. I don't quite understand why it does it, but basically it puts your iPhone into an absolute tizwas, and the phone, in order to preserve itself, crashes. I don't think there's anything malicious about this. It's just kind of a proof of concept, proof that it can be done. But of course, vulnerabilities, often a crash or something like that is just the sort of the first way in. So maybe somebody else will leverage this, some bad guy, for something slightly more nefarious. Okay, the last one, nothing to do with anything, just love it. We have now found officially the world's oldest cheese, according to the BBC website. It was made 7,000 years ago in Croatia, and they've discovered traces of what they think was a cheese on some pots, and it's from 7,000 years ago. Need I say more? I mean, if ever you needed a nice bit of news to round off the week, this is it. Cheese, 7,000 years old at the very least. Thank you for listening to this once again. Please come and join us on some of these webinars. I'm really enjoying doing them. We've got, like I say, a couple this week. If you go to wpbuilds.com/webinars, please subscribe, come and join us, ask your questions. It's all the better if there's more people on the call. I really do like it. And I hope you come and listen to our podcast on Thursday as well. But between now and then, have a lovely, lovely week. Bye-bye.